Hello, welcome to PODnas. This is a sports show with some Southern and Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. Jarrett Roser. Today we're going to talk the NBA playoffs. My time is finally here. Let's go. How you doing, Jarrett?
I'm good, man. Fourth time, 72nd bodily function, second wardrobe change, all on your end. The charm, I guess. So you've been waiting for this NBA playoff catch-up edition and wanted to make sure everything was perfectly right. All the burps and sneezes and coughs were out. The hat was on the right way. Rock and roll.
Everything, happened. It was all there. I'm sorry. I didn't want to just do that in the middle of an actual take. All right. And then have to start over, which we did have to do anyway. So here, let me take another sip of water. Let's get into it. Lakers suck. Clippers suck. LA sucks. I don't know why I care about LA so much in this right now, but
yeah. I don't know why that's a thing at all. I'm not giving up on the Clippers entirely yet, but Jamal Murray's game 5 makes me feel like they're about on life support at this point. The Lakers are done, obviously, on Thursday morning as we talk.
Yes. We're talking on Thursday morning. So last night, Rockets stole one from Golden State. I think, you could I think about 10 minutes into that game, Golden State was like, all right, we're going back to San Francisco.
They did. It was Steve Kerr went the opposite route of JJ Redick, where the starters basically played no minutes in the second half of that game and figured we'll just take care of this at home in game 6.
So let's just recap a little bit of what's gone on so far. If you're just listening and you haven't been following the NBA playoffs, but you want to know, and that's obviously why you come to us. So tonight on Thursday, we do have a couple of game 6s. Nuggets, Clippers, like we just talked about. There's Knicks and the Pistons, which has been super interesting. Last night, Lakers got eliminated. The night before that, Bucks beat the Pacers. Pacers beat the Bucks to eliminate the Bucks. Celtics swept Celtics had a gentleman sweep. The Cavs swept. The Thunder swept. So we're almost into this second round here. And what are some of the things that you've seen, just in general, overarching in this playoff so far?
Yeah, I think pretty quickly every series was chippy in a way that I don't remember quite that level of no one likes anyone happening as quickly across the board in a first round set of playoffs recently. You always have a few that get kind of like that, or, by the time some series drag into the later parts and, game 5, game 6 sort of thing, then it gets there. But I mean, it felt like games 1 and 2 in every series, people were in each other's faces. Unfortunately, there's been kind of hand in hand with some of that. The officiating has been all over the board, where there have been a lot of controversial calls late in games. There have been a lot of games that feel like they've been officiated differently at different stretches of the games, and just a lot of frustration with that. And then, I think the teams we looked at, go ahead. Yeah.
May I about the officiating? And I don't normally back the officials, and they got some calls wrong, like the Detroit Knicks foul on Timothy Hardaway Jr. was a foul, but
the NBA said it was a foul after the game, which does them no good.
I understand that, but I also feel like all of these teams are like, we're ready for it to get hard nosed, and we want it. We want the contact, and we don't mind physical basketball. And yes, there are fouls that are fouls, but I feel like now, then, anytime there's anything, I think it's just a sentiment of where the league is at, like at how every single superstar from Luka down to, SGA, who I would say is on the best team, but is a little bit lower tier than what you'd give like a Luka, LeBron, someone like that has that name power. I feel like you can't have it both ways. I feel like there's a lot of talk back at the refs. And that's one of the biggest things that pisses me off, is like when someone misses a play down the court because they're too busy talking to the ref. And it happens all the time. And then some of those times I think, well, hey, maybe if you weren't fucking telling, it's Kershaw, if you weren't telling us like your entire life story to the referee on the court about why you should get fouled, maybe those 2 points would have mattered a little bit more at the end. And maybe you should have gotten back on defense. So there's not just such a quick, easy bucket. I remember watching it happen several times because that's what Luka does. Why am I so on the Lakers dick today?
I was going to say, do you want to just at some point at Luka in this, or if it's not Luka in your head as you're saying this, which player? It's not just him, but he's pretty bad with it.
I mean, Jokic does it as well.
Sure.
Let's just look over. Harden is not as bad as he used to be with it, but Harden is still pretty on there. I think the entire Pacers team does it. Celtics are kind of that. As much as I dislike Boston, and there are some complaints there, they're kind of nose pale, and it just feels quiet. I don't know if Jason Tatum's just shy, but it feels like he doesn't talk to anyone ever at all. So, yeah, I just him and Deuce. Love that. Yeah, I'm kind of ready for it to get past because I also feel like, while yes, it is going to get chippy, it's playoff basketball. I feel like a lot of the teams that lost, whether it be the Bucks, whether it be the Magic, the Grizzlies, or the Lakers, had to try and make it uncomfortable for some of these teams. Maybe not the Lakers, because I think the Timberwolves did make the Lakers uncomfortable, and that's why they lost. But a lot of these lower seeded teams that went into it, I felt like the only shot that the Grizzlies had to take even a game, which didn't happen, was to try and get the Thunder guys off of their normal like schedule. And same thing, the reason why the Magic won that game, and obviously Tatum was, obviously the Celtics have had some injuries, so they had some key pieces out during that game. I believe it was Tatum, and I know Drew Holiday was out for most of the series.
Yeah, they've been trying to be cautious with Drew, betting on themselves to get through this series and have him as healthy as possible for the next.
Which really happens when you know a team that you're playing can't score. So between the Rockets and the Magic, there are a bunch of different storylines, and some of the storylines with the teams that have been eliminated about what comes next for them, which I think is really interesting, which is one of the reasons why I personally love the NBA. I love this time of year. There's basketball games every single day. It's really great. Meaningful basketball games. I don't have to watch the Hornets and the Wizards.
Yeah,
I want to see how Alexander Sarr is doing. Go ahead. I'll get off my soapbox and let you go.
We started with some of those overarching dynamics of physicality and officiating being a central theme and all those things. But in terms of some of these matchups and performances, the next two biggest takeaways to me that I was going to say were the three teams that we looked at as kind of the front runners, OKC, Cleveland, and Boston, really flexed in the first round. And so looked the part early on of the championship contenders we thought they would be. And then watching the way some of these series end for teams, and I think the Bucks are kind of the poster child of this moment. How aggressive are these off seasons going to look in places like Milwaukee, where Giannis clearly has next to no help? Dame, we don't know how long that timeline is going to be. They're hamstrung with draft picks for years to come. Don't have their own first round pick control until 2031. And that's kind of the headliner. But a lot of these other places, LA is going to have to do some things. The Lakers are going to have to do some things this offseason, and kind of on down the list.
I mean, yeah, Grizzlies are going. I mean, and between Grizzlies and Nuggets, they're going to have to find a new head coach here.
Yeah.
Two teams in the playoffs are going to have to find a head coach, and just because we got to stick to our name, we got to stick to the PODnas style. This Milwaukee downfall and crash is good for the Pelicans. The Pelicans control their 27 pick, which they can then punt to 28, right?
So they
26 pick and 27.
The Pels have the right to flip in the 26 picks if the Bucks pick is better. And then in 27, there's kind of a layered dynamic where there's a top 4 protection that comes into play, and the Hawks are involved in all this. And so if the Bucks
get rid of Giannis, which I think could very possibly happen this summer.
If the Bucks pick is in the first 4, the Pels can take that pick, and then Atlanta gets the Pels pick. If the Bucks pick is not in the top 4, then the Pels just get both picks. I think
Yeah.
it might be the other way around, but there's a dynamic where the Pels either get the better of the picks or potentially just get both picks in 27.
Yeah. And so, like I said that a little too early. And Giannis might be gone this summer. Unfortunately, I know you're a Bucks. I know you've got some Bucks love in your heart. You're a Bucks fan, but
yeah, man, I'm glad we were there for Game 6 against the Suns a few years ago. I didn't realize it was going to be the only time they got to that point.
Yeah, it's very weird. Like, I wonder if the Toronto fans knew that were there at that Kawhi Leonard where the ball bounced in versus the 76ers, that corner shot, if that plus the championship were going to be like the pinnacle of what they've had. But that's just how the NBA, I think, is so dynamic with what teams are winning. We haven't had a back-to-back champion, I believe, since the Rockets or since the Bulls or Lakers. I'm sorry, I went all the way through those. Because even on that Spurs run was a lot of every other year.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
I think it was
Spurs or Pistons, but
I think it was the Lakers when they had their back-to-back or their three-peat.
Yeah, in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
The league changes so quickly, and that's why you hear veterans talking at this time of year about them trying to emphasize to younger members of the team that, look, we made this run. You can't take this for granted just because we should mostly be back next year. You just never know. You never know, what other team is going to take a big step forward, what kind of hurdles you're going to go through, whether injuries or otherwise, and how quickly some of these rosters turn over as well. And so, we watched that Bucks team beat the Suns just a few years ago for a championship. And then they had some issues on their end with some injuries with Middleton and Giannis, and it kind of cost them for a couple years. And then
then you get rid of Drew, and also everyone gets older. Yeah.
Since that first round loss to the Heat a couple of years ago, where Giannis was dealing with the back issues, they have tried to chase ways to extend the Giannis window and get him help while he's still at his peak. And almost everything has gone wrong, whether big or small. Getting rid of Bud after that year did not pan out. Trading Drew, not only do you end up with Dame, who, if he had a chance to be healthy, then maybe this looks different, but you also knew that was part of the risk in trading for a small guard and, approaching his mid-30s. And then days later, Drew ends up in Boston, which is your biggest competitor at that point in the East. And then you're just still chasing. You have to trade away Middleton this year to go get Kyle Kuzma and hope that can be some kind of spark. Kuzma was terrible in this series. Everything they've done, they have not drafted well with the picks they've had, and now all of a sudden they're not going to have the picks anymore moving forward. And so it's really problematic right now in Milwaukee. I don't see how they get competitively good in terms of a championship competitive level in the years to come. And so does Giannis ask out like so many NBA stars have? And like you said, that's Pelicans fans need to be watching that.
And two things. One, I'm a big old dumb idiot. The Warriors won in 2017 and 2018 when Kevin Durant came into town.
Yeah.
So big dumb right here, but that's not the first time, and I don't think it will be the last. So save your screams. Also, I think if you're Milwaukee,
San Francisco is going to be pissed at this episode of PODnas.
No, they really, really are. I think that if you're the Bucks in this situation, you legitimately not only, I know this is going to sound crazy, but you have to think about flipping Giannis for your future. Like he is going to draw tickets like every time. So if you're an owner that just wants see that money keep coming in the bank, you're going to keep him there until he asks out. But if you are a franchise that I think wants, just like I think Cleveland wants another championship, a LeBron-less championship, I do think Milwaukee is an organization that wants rings, that wants to be known as one of the better organizations overall in the entire league. I feel like you have to think about flipping Giannis. You have to, because that's the
Yeah,
only thing on your team that's going to get back significant return in the way of like draft picks. I mean, you could probably it would be I think a larger than AD size trade, larger than Mikal Bridges size trade.
oh yeah. I mean, unless Nico's orchestrating it, then
I
you
mean,
should get
yeah,
an awful lot back.
for sure.
But I don't think that franchise can or should move Giannis unless he kind of expresses a want to do so. And it's going to be interesting. I think it's Rosillo. Someone has talked for years now about the dynamics of the Scouts have typically been the American born stars, the US natives. And we haven't seen a particularly high profile Scout by one of the international players, but that it would just be a matter of time. Would it be a Giannis? Would it be an Embiid? Would it be a Joker if things got bad in Denver? And so that's an interesting piece of this equation too, because Giannis is a guy that 2 years ago was asked if that season was a failure when it was, the playoffs had gone really poorly, and he gave an answer that I don't think most of the league's players would give in terms of just his vision of things, and everything is kind of a process and working, and you don't look at any of it as a failure. It's just kind of the ups and downs of life. And so it'll be really interesting to see if he still has that kind of philosophical view on where he's at right now with a team that doesn't look like it's contending anytime soon, or does he become that first international absolute superstar that does want to go win another title elsewhere? The fact that he won that one is a big piece of this too, because he's not trying to go get his first. He's already shown he can get it. And so that kind of changes the tenor of some of this as well.
Yeah, and we can hop off the Bucks after this. I know I want to go into like overall who's still playing, but
Yeah.
Even in that game, the elimination game, Giannis had a filthy triple double. He had 30-some points. He was like almost 20 rebounds. It was like 15 assists. It was something wild.
He had 20. He had 30, 20, 13, 2 steals and 2 blocks on 53% from the floor, 1 of 2 3-point shooting, and 65% from the line. He honestly might be the MVP of the first round of the playoffs if you want to look at it in certain ways, where he carried that team to even be involved.
Okay,
he got no help other than Gary Trent for 2 games was good, and then Gary Trent fumbles away a turnover late that cost him in the last game.
Zion for Giannis. They do it in a second, right? Oh, in a moment. Let's go.
That's the other piece of this too. So we kind of talked about 2 different things that also need to be kept in mind together. Is if you trade Giannis and you get bad, your picks are just helping the Pels at that point. And so there's not as much incentive for them to move off of Giannis right now if he doesn't want out, unless you somehow work out a deal that whether it be Giannis to come to New Orleans or just some sort of deal where the Pels get incentivized to send you back your draft picks, whether that be a part of like a 3-team deal or kind of a series of deals. And so that's another piece of this for Pels fans to watch is, do your picks get real good real quickly, or are you able to kind of leverage the situation and compound some of the benefits of those picks from the Drew trade?
Just going to throw it out there. Next round, Thunder get bounced. They have a bevy of picks and a bunch of young talent.
Yeah.
And I think just like the Rockets are going to be superstar if that were to happen. And I don't, from everything that we've seen from the Thunder, that's not going to happen. I'm just speaking hypothetically. But if something like that happens, they are a team along with the Rockets with a lot of, and the Spurs with Wemby, a lot of talent, a lot of picks that, are probably going to look to shake things up after disappointing years where they feel like they could be on the cusp. Like I think a San Antonio with Wemby and with Castle winning Rookie of the Year just the other day could be as well. So let's go. Go ahead.
If the Thunder win the championship and they can add Giannis without giving up Shea, you do it anyway. Even if you win and you look at the rest of that roster and realize you can consolidate a couple of those guys into one of the top 3 probably players, top handful certainly players in the league right now who still is in his prime and putting up 30 and 20 and 13 games in the playoffs, you still go do that and become the dominant force in the league for the years to come, assuming the asking price is anywhere near manageable.
Well, and I just hope that if that does happen, that they break up Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams and SGA, so I don't have to see any of those awful AT&T commercials anymore.
No, because you'll just see the Vanderbilt guys version where whoever gets traded out is the Devo, where they're kind of having the sad music play about how they've lost touch or whatever.
One, Donald Glover is the voiceover for that commercial, so it's perfect. Two, all right, the Villanova guys won a championship.
Villanova,
okay, yeah. All right, so
who did I say Vanderbilt? You got me thinking about Jared Vanderbilt from our talk before. Yeah.
So, one, who do you think wins the rest of these series? So we got Knicks Pistons. Who you got in that?
That's going to be really interesting just from a health standpoint of Brunson and Hart, because I would jump on saying the Knicks with the benefit of the 3-2 advantage, and game 7 would be at home, and a more veteran team and all those things. But if that really tight Tibbs rotation is banged up and suddenly, Detroit is certainly capable of winning at home in game 6, and things could compound and get worse from a health standpoint for the Knicks in game 7. The Pistons have shown they're not afraid of any bit of this smoke in the first round. And so I think the Knicks, but it's all of these really at this point are worth monitoring closely because they could get interesting really quickly.
Okay, so you got Knicks. I'm actually going to go Pistons there. I think the Pistons are going to take it. So I'll make a little note of this. You got Knicks. I got Pistons. All right, next up, Clippers and Nuggets. That is also the other game 6 that we got.
I was so torn on this series even going in, and through 3 games, I think, I started to feel like the Clippers were taking control, but the Nuggets have just hit another gear. And the fact that Jamal Murray has kind of found his playoff Jamal stride the last couple of games, I like the way that the Nuggets are coming together. They're getting good performances overall from Russ Westbrook, which has been huge. I mean, you get with Russ at this point in his career, you get the good and the bad, but he's been a net positive overall. And Christian Brown has been great playing into his role. So I like the Nuggets to finish this thing out.
I do too. I just think the whole Clippers vibe is coming in finally. We thought it was gone, but it's here.
Yeah. Deciding game, James Harden is starting to arrive. We saw in game 5, whatever the hell he had, it was not a good game.
Yeah. Lastly, we got Warriors Rockets. We're going back to the Bay. They're going to try to close this thing out one more time after really not giving a heck last night's game, except for I was watching last night. I thought the bench was going to come back and win the game for him.
I texted the Morale brothers who went to, shout out Hightower High in Houston, that if the lineup of Pat Spencer, Moses Moody, Kevin Knox, Guy Santos, and Quentin Post finished that comeback, I was going to laugh at the city of Houston in perpetuity, because they cut that thing down to 12 or 13 with 6 or 7 minutes left, and the Rockets and their fans were sweating a little bit. There's no way they weren't. The Warriors were 1 or 2 rebounds away from that thing suddenly being an 8-point game with a bunch of time left. Just couldn't quite finish it out. But all of the Warriors' eggs were in this game 6 basket by that point. So they better go back home and close it out now. Because as someone that likes the Warriors, I don't want to go back to Houston for game 7 with a growing confidence Houston team waiting for me. And also, the longer this series lingers, the worse you're setting yourself up to face Minnesota, who is going to come in and try and bully you as well.
Yep, absolutely agree. So we differ on Knicks Pistons, and that's where we'll come back to you next episode and let you know who was right, who was wrong, who could put it in a little song. I'm rhyming today. It's NBA playoff season, man. I'm very happy. That is going to be all that we got for you. We just wanted to give you a little NBA update. I don't want to go too much in who we think is going to win. I think we can wait until we see who's all in that second round to kind of re-up on where we were with that. But I think for me, it's still, I maybe I'm going to put the Cavs over the Celtics, but that again, maybe just some wish casting to play the Thunder in the finals. So, yeah, but we can go into depth in that second round once we get there. Hey, it's always good to talk a little hoops with you, buddy.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Love to do it.
I will say, as great as OKC looked for most of that series, that Houston or Golden State, Minnesota, and Denver have shown some things in this first round that make me feel like it could be a little bit more challenging of a road for Shea and company to get through. But I agree with you. I still think it's OKC coming out of the West ultimately and one of those top 2 seeds in the East.
Yeah, I'm just last note, and then we'll hop out of here. I want to see what happens when someone shuts down Shea, because it's going to happen one game at least, and then how do the Thunder bounce back from that? Because I don't think they've really had that happen to them. Like even last night, the Timberwolves, Ant was 0 for 10 from 3-pointers, but the rest of the team, aka Rudy Gobert, really stepped up and kind of pushed them through on that elimination game. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see the Thunder get punched in the mouth, because I don't think they've been punched in the mouth yet.
Yeah, Shea, I don't think had a great scoring game 1, but it was kind of like Ant was in the closeout game, where Ant was whatever from the 30%.
Also, I'm not counting the Grizzlies. Okay.
Yeah. Against the team that's actually capable of beating OKC, you want to see how they respond. But
against a team that can take advantage of a poor shooting night from someone.
Yeah, but Ant, to Ant's credit with this whole thing too, he's 0 for 11 from 3 and shot like 30% from the floor in the closeout game, but still ended up, he got to the line 8 times, ends up with 15 points, had like 11 or 12 rebounds, 8 assists, I think a couple of steals, maybe a block shot, and no turnovers. He still played incredibly efficiently, other than some of his good looks weren't falling. And so I think that was an impressive performance in his own right for a young guy to be playing that well all around and not let the poor shooting affect everything else he was doing defensively and just facilitating and whatnot.
It is so fun to see these guys elevate at the playoff time. And it is really why I understand people's reservations with the NBA, because during the regular seasons, people can really mail it in, but this playoff hockey, playoff basketball in general is just so much fun to watch across the board. So it's a great time of year.
Shouldn't the playoffs be better than the regular season? Don't we want it to take it up?
Exactly. I don't know what. Yeah. I get it, but I still am like, okay, whatever. Anyway, that's all we got for you today. We'll be back to check in with you next week about more NBA, any LSU or Louisiana news that happens. This is a spot to be. Louisiana versus all y'all. Check out the channel, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. We'd love to hear from you. You can go over to Twitter or Instagram, LA versus all y'all. And you can find us on Instagram as well, PODnas_LA. Good to see you. Have a great weekend, buddy. PODnas.
Likewise.
Likewise. Out.